Hello everyone and welcome to our Tempo Strategy Legends of Runeterra deck spotlight. The format has changed substantially over the past weeks with the introduction of the KDA cards as well as balance changes brought along with patch 1.14. Thanks to these changes, a handful of old strategies have found new tools in their arsenal, while a few new strategies have started to take their first steps in the Runeterra metagame. Of these new strategies, one of the most noteworthy builds to emerge is Twisted Fate Go Hard, otherwise known as Back Alley Poker, a deck with incredible card draw, strong removal, healing, board flood, and reach. This deck is truly a jack of all trades, but to call it a master of none would be to sell it short. Before we take a deep dive into Twisted Fate Go Hard, please take a moment to like the video and make sure you're subscribed to the channel so you can stay up to date with more tempo strategy content. Back Alley Poker could be called a tempo-driven combo deck. The strategy revolves around flooding the board with chump blockers and small attackers while keeping its hand stacked with resources. While the deck does not solely rely on unit damage to win the game, it does need some to win the game. To supplement its attack turns, the strategy can set up wide boards backed up by Pack Your Bags or red cards, occasionally bolstered by powder kegs. With a suite of low-cost threats, this deck is able to take over the board slowly, then take a commanding lead on it when Pack Your Bags is resolved. With how important getting to Pack Your Bags often is in many matchups, the strategy finds itself having a somewhat one-track mind, where it is trying to maximize on its raw speed of getting to the first Pack Your Bags. This can be seen best with Zap Sprayfin. In this deck, Zap is guaranteed to find either Go Hard or Glimpse Beyond, ensuring that you are consistently finding gas. The deck list even finds space for a single copy of Chronicler of Ruin, which in most cases acts as Zap number 4. By sacrificing the ability to play other low-cost spells, the deck instead looks to more expensive removal from Shadow Isles and cards such as Crumble, Vengeance, and Ruination. This, in addition to its cheap damage options, gives Back Alley Poker solid answers to many situations. Many cards in the deck are fairly low mana cost. Normally a deck like this would struggle with hand size after just a few turns, but Back Alley Poker circumvents this issue by having what can only be described as an abundance of card draw. Going up the mana curve, you will quickly realize that nearly half of the deck, 19 out of 40 cards, draw at least one card, some being pure card draw, while others will develop a unit to the board without hurting card quantity. This is crucial not only for finding extra copies of Go Hard, but this also means that nearly 50% of the time you are drawing a card, that card will draw another. This gives the pilot the ability to continually sculpt their hand throughout the game as they creep ever closer to the Pack Your Bags turn, which will in most cases break the enemy's board and allow for a game-ending attack within the next few turns. The last thing to take note of is the deck's champion selection. 3 copies of Twisted Fate are mandatory. Not only are his red and gold cards crucial tools for controlling the enemy board, but blue card and pick a card gives the deck access to further card draw. Out of all the variations of Twisted Fate, none of them can level him up quite as fast as Back Alley Poker. If the enemy does not hold up mana to threaten to remove Twisted Fate, he can be flipped in a single turn. The deck's second champion is a little bit more of a wild card. Most often you will see Elise used as the second champion. For a 2-drop, she applies excellent pressure and blocks reasonably well. The Spiderlinks prove to be fairly valuable as they can help push units into the range of your 1 damage removal tools while chump blocking. Occasionally you will see versions of Back Alley Poker that will opt for Callista or Gangplank as their second champion. While these two are less common, they do have their own merit. Callista applies pressure in a similar fashion to Elise with 2 key differences. Callista levels up much more easily. Callista is also a fearsome blocker herself. Conveniently, Callista blocks Elise quite nicely. As for Gangplank, while he is much less flexible than Elise, he has some distinct advantages. His 5/5 Overwhelm body gives the deck access to a beefy attacker, which is quite nice as Back Alley Poker is mostly small units. He also comes with a free powder keg, which is quite handy to have in play. Of the champion variants, the ones you will most often see are number 1, Elise Twisted Fate, number 2, Callista Twisted Fate, number 3, 2 Elise, 1 Gangplank, 3 Twisted Fate, and number 4, Gangplank Twisted Fate. When sitting down to play a game with Back Alley Poker, you will need to have a plan for your mulligan. In most matchups, there will be a core of cards you should generally look for: Go Hard, Jagged Butcher, Elise Twisted Fate. If you have Go Hard, consider keeping Dreadway Deckhand. If you are against a mid-rangey matchup, consider keeping the Ruination or Vengeance. When fighting aggro, it is usually worth it to keep Doom Beast. Though this deck aims to play a long game, it has access to some reasonable plays early into the game. As soon as turn 1, you can start things off with a Jagged Butcher or Go Hard to control the board. Ideally, you will be able to set up a turn 2 Elise, which will swing early tempo in your favor. During the early turns of the game is when your Dreadway Deckhand Go Hard combos will be at their strongest. The goal of these early turns is to either set up roadblocks for the enemy if you are the defender in the matchup, or to start building a threatening presence on the board if you are the aggressor, and this is enabled best by Elise, Jagged Butcher, and Fortune Croaker. The early turns have ended and players are now getting access to more mana. Players will be able to deploy some of their real threats at this stage of the game. Ideally, you may find an opportunity to land a strong Twisted Fate to start pressuring your opponent. If you are the defender, you will likely need to set up a red or gold card. If you are the aggressor, however, blue card is a powerful option, as it will give you a unit in play at the cost of no cards while bringing Twisted Fate close to a level up. This is also the point of the game where you will find the time to play Zap Spray Fin. Often you will want to start Zap as soon as possible, but you may also find yourself in the position where you want to hide the information that you can access at Go Hard. The opponent has likely built up dangerous board presence, and you probably have a handful of junk units in play. Many games will come down to a race to pack your bags, which often buries the opponent in both a tempo and value lead. Proper timing for pack your bags is also an important factor of success for this deck. Generally, you should aim to play your pack your bags after you have built up a solid board presence, just before your attack. If you can land Go Hard after both players have committed most of their mana for the turn, it can leave you with a large window to attack where the opponent is completely unable to defend themselves. One attack like that, combined with the Nexus damage from Pack Your Bags and Doom Beast, is often enough to close out most games. Twisted Fate Go Hard or Back Alley Poker is one of the most powerful decks in the current Legends of Runeterra format. The deck is able to play out in a variety of ways without sacrificing its game plan of rush to pack your bags, which tends to be lights out for many aggressive strategies. When fighting against slower control matchups, however, the deck's power level will scale throughout the game, in some cases being able to land as many as 3 pack your bags before closing out the game. Back Alley Poker has proven itself to be a top contender in today's format, and likely will continue to do so for the remainder of the Monuments of Power format.